Super Bowl week is finally here, and that means it's got to be super big. So I don't have one Behind Enemy Lines show this week. I have two. Going on a Monday is not something we normally do around here, but it is that important for this week. Your 49ers are in the Super Bowl to try and exact revenge on the Kansas City Chiefs. There's so much to talk about when it comes to this game, and we're going to do just that next. All right, welcome back to Last Second Sports. We are giving you our take down to the last second. And as I said, it's Behind Enemy Lines, episode 1 for the week. And I got my guy, Greg, from the Arrowhead Attic joining me today. Greg, how you doing, my man?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thank you so much for making this work. We had some back and forth on the day and the time, and Super Bowl schedule is crazy. I know that you guys are running some great things over at Arrowhead Addict, and I appreciate you taking time out of your week to talk about this Super Bowl matchup, man. I don't know. Let me know. Are you a Chiefs fan? You just cover the team?
Oh, yeah.
Give me some clarity here.
Yeah, dude. I'm a huge Chiefs fan. Look at this stuff behind me. Come on.
Perfect.
Listen, this one. Oh, other side, wrong side. Listen, this is the famous Wasp play against
God,
so,
dude.
I know. Yeah. So yeah.
Start off on the wrong foot, Greg. Let's redo the intro here. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, man.
I started wearing my Mahomes jersey. My wife wouldn't let me, so I was like, oh, whatever. I guess that'll be too much for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason, making sure that everybody knows that I'm late again. All right, here's the deal, Jason. I have zero excuses, but I do have to say this. In my normal life, I am never late. Like, I'm always early for everything, but it seems like when it comes to these shows, I don't know. I'm always just late. I can't explain it. It's not on purpose. I wish it wasn't the case. But you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm definitely late again. I don't know what's going on. All right, let's talk about some of these matchups here. But before we get to that, Greg, I have some questions about the Chiefs because the Chiefs are building a bit of a dynasty here, right? Over the last 5 years on the backs of beating the 49ers in the Super Bowl in 2019. Mm-hmm. But there are some rumors floating around that Andy Reid and or Travis Kelce might retire after this season, especially if they win a Super Bowl. So let's start with Andy Reid first.
Sure.
For my money, the best coach in the NFL going right now. Do you think there's any truth to the rumor that Andy Reid might retire if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl?
I don't think so. You know, it seems like there for a couple of weeks, it was like one report after another saying he was going to retire, and then I think it was Diane Rossini, maybe. I don't know that for sure. One of the reporters came out and said that she didn't think it was true at all. And that's kind of where I've been leaning is it seems really unlikely. I don't know. I feel like we'd be getting more. Like, I don't know what we would expect if he was retiring, but I just feel like there'd be more signs there. Earlier in the season, he did a press conference where they asked him about it. And he said that he was still enjoying it. He was still having a good time. And he had no plans to retire. So like, to me, that's him being honest. And like, I think that he wouldn't have lied quite outright if he was planning on retiring. Now I say that, and Nick Saban just retired at the college level, and literally like 2 weeks before he retired, he did an interview where he said he was still loving it and he was still going to be coaching for a while and all this. And then 2 weeks later, he was retiring. So, you just never know.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I look at it from the outside is obviously the rumors there, and I understand it. But Andy Reid is a true purist football guy. He loves being around the game, to the detriment, really, of kind of his family life at some point. for good or bad. I mean, every man makes his own decisions, but those are some of the decisions he's made. So I find it hard to believe, especially if they do win and they have a chance to go for 3 in a row,
Mhm.
to walk away from that. And I also, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I swear I distinctly remember him telling Patrick Mahomes when he signed that 10-year deal that he's going to be around for most, if not all of that deal. So I don't know like how much going back on that now would cause a rift there, or if Patrick would be upset or hold him to that. But I swear I remember something like that. Am I mistaken?
Yeah, I think I remember something like that too. I mean, it's been a couple of years now, but I kind of remember
Yeah.
that too. So you're right. I do think. I mean, they've got such a strong relationship. You do have to wonder, like, if Reed were to retire, obviously Mahomes would come out publicly and say, "Hey, we support Coach. We love him. We've won, 3 Super Bowls together. Let him ride off into the sunset," type of thing. But you do have to wonder if behind the scenes, if it would create a little bit of animosity, or at least some kind of rift there. It could be one of those things where we don't find out until years later when they do a 30 for 30 on here's what's actually what was going on. And so but yeah, I don't think he's going to retire. I hope he doesn't retire, to be honest. But we'll just have to see.
Okay, what about Kelsey? I think personally this one's a little bit more realistic. I mean, he's getting close to 35. He's got a lot of football miles on those legs, those joints. This is the first time ever that he's shown some sort of like chink in the armor. He hasn't played every game. Not that he's missed a ton of time, but he's missed a little bit. He looked considerably slower throughout the year, even though he still had a pretty good season, just not great by his standards. Turned it on in the playoffs for sure, but he's got a lot of money and he is pushing that 35 age. So do you think that there's a possibility Kelsey could retire?
I think there's a greater possibility than for him to do that than Reed retires, but I still don't think so. You do make a good point with him kind of slowing down. I mean, Kelsey's much slower. He's never been a fast guy anyway, but you could definitely see this season. I remember there was one play I was watching the game with my family, and Kelsey got a pass, and he was running down the field, and he was going so slow. It was almost comical how slow he was compared to the rest of the defense. And my grandpa made the comment. He's like, "Man, who is that guy? He's really slow." And I just started laughing. I said, "That's Travis Kelsey," So it was like, he is slowing down, but honestly, I just don't think he's going to retire. He kind of like Reed. He said not too long ago that he's still loving the game. And I think it was last week after the championship game, some mics caught him talking to Patrick, and he just said, "Man, it's moments like these that make me keep doing this for another 11 years." And so it was like, when you hear that, you're like, okay, as Chiefs fan, you're like, let's go. Well, you may be in a wheelchair after 5, but if you're slow catching passes, I think we'll take you. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. And honestly, the other part that doesn't get talked about is if the Chiefs lose the Super Bowl, I definitely don't think he'll retire. If you watched the Kelsey documentary of his brother from last year, they both, well, Travis was the one who said, like, when you lose, that's when you want the most. And Jason felt that after he lost, and you saw at the end of that series that he really contemplated retiring, not he eventually came back. And so I do think that if the Chiefs unfortunately lose, he's for sure coming back next year.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I'd be curious to see what happens there if he retires or Andy retires. I know that you have some big time free agents over there, and Jones and Snead. So it's a big offseason for the Chiefs. It really is. I'll be curious to see what they do with Patrick Mahomes' contract, if they try to free up some money on the back end to keep some of these guys available to them and try to keep the team together. And also, I do wonder what the difference in winning and losing is. If they lose, are players willing to go elsewhere to get paid more? If they win, are they willing to take a little bit of a discount to try to make a run at something special? I think there's a lot of things that kind of play into this offseason for the Chiefs.
Yep, I agree. I think it's going to be hard. We finally got a really great defense built, and unfortunately, it's also kind of at the peak of a bunch of contracts, and so it is going to put us in an interesting position over the next couple of years, especially going to next year. Like, who do we keep, who do we lose, and can we still sustain this defense? Because it's the best Patrick's ever had, and that's an excellent, like, the first couple of years of his career, great offense. Now he's entering a portion where, man, if a defense can be there to really push his greatness, it's going to help a lot.
Well, we're going to talk about that defense because it is a very, very good defense. But before we get there, let's talk about the offense. This is a Chiefs offense that has been a little bit underwhelming throughout the season, especially an offense where Andy Reid is the play caller and head coach, where Patrick Mahomes, who may be the greatest to ever do it as far as physical traits and everything he brings to the game, playing the quarterback position. Yet this offense ranked, I believe, 10th in points per game, which isn't bad by any means, but by their standards is much lower than what you would expect. They've had a good offensive line. Some of the weapons haven't been all that great. There's been some injuries and what have you, but one thing they have done is they've turned it on a little bit in the playoffs. Now, the Ravens game, they only scored 17, but that was the best scoring defense in the NFL. Other than that, they've put up some points in the first two games. What do you see as the biggest difference between the Chiefs' offense when it came to the playoffs versus what we saw in the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like they're a lot more locked in, and it's kind of funny. It seems like some of the players, especially Patrick, have pointed to that. Is it's like, after such a rough regular season, then the playoffs came along, and their whole attitude kind of just changed, and so it didn't really surprise me all that much. I think I saw maybe it was an Andy Reid interview where they said that the Raiders' loss on Christmas was kind of the turning point. That was kind of the low point of the season for them. And after that point on, the team really just said, we got to be better. And they really have. And it's pretty remarkable how they have turned it on in the postseason. I wasn't too surprised against the Dolphins. We beat them in the regular season. So, like, I was confident, and we beat them even more than we did then. And the Bills, I was very nervous about the Bills. We did it, though. The Chiefs did it, and they pulled through. And then you did mention the Ravens. They only scored 17 points. Yeah, that one was such a weird game because it is kind of overlooked, but they didn't score any points in the second half, which usually isn't a good thing. But anyone who watched that game, I didn't feel like the offense really had any problems, though. It was kind of just one of those weird things where, like, they were moving the ball up and down the field the whole game. They just didn't get in the end zone in the second half. So there wasn't a whole lot of, like, nervousness, like, oh, are we regressing to what we were in the regular season? So, yeah, just kind of one of those weird things, but I'm glad they've turned it on, and I'm excited to see what they do in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the Chiefs, I agree with that wholeheartedly, by the way. And looking at this offense and the way that they've turned it on and seemingly fixed all of their issues is interesting. It kind of begs the question of, okay, how much of this was young players? How much of this was them kind of playing coy all season? I don't know. I mean, not that is it, but gosh, man, it almost seems like it the way they've turned it on. And the most impressive thing I would say about the Chiefs, offense, defense, everything all in, none of these playoff games have been in doubt. They had to play at home in frigid weather. Yep. Then they had to go on the road in two very tough environments against elite quarterbacks. And they've just showed out every time through. And none of the games were ever in doubt. There was never a thought of when these games started of, oh my gosh, like the Chiefs might lose. Like, here it is, the end of this run. It never has happened, which is insane to think about for an offense, especially an offense that really hasn't had it together all season, from drops to turnovers to just being out of sync, the frustration with Kelsey and Mahomes on the sidelines and Andy Reid and the whole thing. It's like as if it never happened once the playoffs started. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it reminds me of, everyone likes to compare the Chiefs now to, like, the Patriots of the last 20 years. But, we used to with the Patriots, people would say, oh, like, they just, like, they sleepwalk through the regular season and then they get into the postseason and they turn on. That's really how the Chiefs have been. And this year is no different, is they just kind of sleptwalk through the regular season, and now here they are. And you're right. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think we'd win the Ravens game. I predicted them to lose. Yeah, like I predicted them to lose. And right up until the end, I still thought the Ravens were going to come back. And but man, the resiliency that this Chiefs team has shown, and I think I wrote a story about it for Arrowhead Addict, but the redemption of MVS there at the end, that single catch at the end of the game to seal it. I mean, it really just flipped everything from this previous season on its head, and it basically was like, yep, you know what? That's all in the rearview mirror. We're here and we're dominant again. Always have been, maybe. you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this question is a good one, kind of parlaying off the topic here. Cryptic says Chiefs ended the season 11-6, up and down season. What do you think has led to their success? Have the young receivers found themselves? Any cause for concern going into the Super Bowl that old habits might return versus San Francisco? So let's go first thing. You kind of talked about their success a little bit, but do you feel like the young receivers have kind of found themselves, or just the receiving core in general? You talked about MVS, who's not young, but do you just feel like the receiving core has kind of found itself and figured it out? Is that what you've seen?
Yeah, I do. I think Rashee Rice has really grown into his own in this offense. I mean, I remember the first couple weeks of the season, everyone was getting really nervous on him because he was having drops, just like all the other receivers were having drops. But as the season progressed, Andy stuck with him, and thankfully they did, because he's really matured. And as a player, I mean, as a rookie, his growth was phenomenal. And he ended the season almost with 1,000 yards, I think. And so the fact that he came along that far, and then in these playoffs, man, he's just been on fire, you know. And so I think that's the big one, is the receivers have just grown a lot. And, you know, the biggest thing is I don't think they ever lost confidence in themselves, which is really surprising, because there were a couple moments, I'm not going to lie, a couple moments in the regular season where I felt like Patrick did kind of lose confidence with them. And there's frustration. You know, we had that one game where he just blew up on everybody. And there's a lot of frustration there, but you know what? They stuck with it, and they kept getting better. And now here they are, and the offense seems to be running just fine.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say, and Andy Reid's offense definitely has a lot of this built into it. Every offense does to a certain extent in the NFL, but I know Andy Reid's offense in particular has a lot of this built in, where depending on what you're reading in the coverage, routes can change a little bit. You know, routes can be flattened out versus, you know, kind of staying vertical. And depending on how a receiver, and a young receiver in particular, is reading the coverage, that might be different than what Patrick Mahomes is reading. And so you may see a throw that's bad, but it's not necessarily Patrick Mahomes' fault. Or you got a receiver that's expecting the ball somewhere else because they read the coverage different than Patrick. And what you're seeing, I think, is these young receivers, or just these receivers in general, but Rashee Rice being a young receiver, rookie year, kind of starting to figure it out and read things the way that Patrick Mahomes does. And I think that is also playing into maybe the lack of drops and those other things. But the second part of this question was, is there any cause for concern as a Chiefs fan going into this Super Bowl that old habits might return versus San Francisco?
I don't think so. I did kind of think about that today, actually. Like, what could we see this offense regress? I guess the possibility is always there, but man, it's just the way they've been the last 3 games in the playoffs. It's just hard to imagine that they would just go all the way back and have those issues. Now, granted, at the end of the Ravens game, we saw the second half they didn't score any points, so that, you know, on paper is concerning. But again, watching that game, you never really felt like there was an issue with the offense. They did like have less and less plays each time they punted, but overall it was like they were still getting yardage. So I don't know. I think the biggest thing is that I don't think any of the receivers had any drops in that game, which was like, you know, the biggest thing everyone was waiting for is like, okay, where's the drop going to come from? And they didn't. And so I think that just shows that altogether they've all matured. And no, I don't think they're going to go back. And even if they do, our defense is stepping up to the plate like they have all season, and really kept us in this. So, yeah.
Yeah, most certainly. I think, and that's the other part of this, is you've got 2 very good teams that are fighting for the championship. If the Chiefs regress offensively, I think you'd have to give the 49ers defense credit. You know, it's not like there's a bunch of slouches on the 49ers defense. They're very star-studded. We know as 49er fans that the 49ers defense has kind of been underwhelming at times throughout these playoffs, but it is still a very good unit with a lot of really good players. So if the Chiefs offense regresses, credit to Wilkes in that defense is what I would probably say about that.
Yeah, I agree.
Keith Murphy. Oh, this is, you know what? I'm going to save this one, Keith. I'm going to let that tee up our other topic. Kevin says, yes, 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 behind enemy lines. We got 2 of them this week, so I'm glad you're excited about it. Elite Archer says, Greg, Jesse, is Brock... Jesse's a Brock hater at his core. Do you feel Purdy hate is justified? Oh, okay. So, yeah, do you think the Purdy hate is justified?
So wait, he's saying you're a Brock hater? Is that
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Because, well, here's the thing. It's one of 2 options, right?
Yeah.
If you like Brock and root for Brock, that's not good enough. You either have to call him elite, and if you're not willing to do that, you're a hater. So yes, I'm a Brock hater. Okay. Do you feel like the Brock hate is justified?
Well, when you put it that way, yes, I guess. I'm kind of with you. Listen, from what I've seen, I'll be honest. So I'm an AFC guy, right? I don't watch a lot of NFC games. I'm just not there. But from what I have seen of Brock Purdy, I have to agree. He's he's not terrible, but he's not like elite or great, right? Like I was listening to Colin Cowherd this morning, and he said he described it as like Brock Purdy's like a mid, like maybe top 15 quarterback, maybe top 20, like, not the bottom league up top, but he's got great cast around him. And so, is the Purdy hate justified? I don't know. I don't know that anyone should hate him because he is good. He did help them get to a Super Bowl, but I don't think he's elite by any stretch. And I'll be honest, I think that's going to be the turning point in this Super Bowl. I think that it's going to be really hard for him to go up against the Chiefs defense. So
let me ask you this, because you remember the 49ers Super Bowl in 2019 where the 49ers blew a lead. A little bitter about that still, but that being said, going into this matchup, do you respect Brock more than you did Jimmy G at that time? Try to remember where you were at that point.
Honestly, no, I don't respect him more. I think
who's the hater now, Elite Archer? No, I'm kidding.
I do think Jimmy G was the better quarterback at the time. Now I do think in the long term, Brock Purdy probably will be a better quarterback than Jimmy G ever was. But no, like at this particular time, I definitely think Jimmy G was more of a threat than Purdy is now.
All right. Not the answer you were looking for, Elite Archer. Thank you, though. Appreciate it. Brother Bob says, and I disagree, Elite Archer, just for the record. Brother Bob says, oh, he's my habitual trash talker, so get ready for Brother Bob. $2 at a time coming at your neck. He says, Greg, don't worry, we will slap the Chiefs' confidence. All right. I like it.
Good luck.
Keith says, why is nobody mentioning that Andy Reid beat 2 of his underlings?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth noting, but I mean, Harbaugh was a special teams guy for him like 20-something years ago and was briefly there, right? I think Harbaugh technically was one of them, was he not?
Yeah, that's the thing is, it's not that nobody's mentioned, like, if you'd asked me if those 2 coaches were in Andy Reid's tree, I would not be able to tell you yes or no. It's just been so long, right? Like, I think that's the biggest thing is that it's been so long that, yes, they came from Andy Reid's coaching tree a long time ago, and most people have probably just forgotten, honestly.
I think so, too, yeah. I mean, the Harbaugh one was actually news to me. I didn't realize that either.
Yeah.
Keith says, Kobe, Shaq, and MJ Bulls, they just need to get through the regular season. Then when the playoff time comes, that pedigree takes over. Put the Chiefs in that category. I don't care how the regular season goes as long as they are in the playoffs. It does kind of seem that way, although it's not ideal to not get the first seed. I'm sure they would have preferred to have a bye week and be at home and all those things. That being said, I think the pedigree does kick in, and this is a team that knows how to win, and there's really not a price you can put on that. So I'm with you on that. Brother Bob. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, I think so. I was kind of thinking how crazy it is that an 11-6 team is in the Super Bowl, which isn't like a huge stretch, but like, most Super Bowl teams have 12, 13 wins at least. And so 11-6 is kind of crazy, but that's just how this Chiefs team is they they did kind of just sleepwalk through the regular season a little bit, and then here they are. But I certainly think they wish they had that bye week. So
I like it. I like it. Brother Bob says, scale of 1 to 10. How mad will you be if when 15 loses in the Super Bowl again? Yeah, if the Chiefs lose, right? I mean, I'm sure that's not something that you really want to put a lot of thought into, but
yeah.
if they lose, I mean, how would you feel about it? Would you feel like, because I think on one half you can look at it and be like, well, listen, I mean, there was times during the regular season, and I also thought the Ravens would beat them. Like, it's still a good season, or it's like, man, you don't know how many chances you're going to get. Losing here kind of sucks. Like, where do you think you'll be at mentally if the Chiefs lose?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably be I'd say a 6 or 7, to be honest. I mean, it's gonna suck for a little bit. But I was actually talking to some of the other Arrowhead Addict guys about this. Is there's something different now that the Chiefs have been in the AFC Championship for like 6 years now. Is there's something weird where like the AFC Championship almost feels like a bigger deal than the Super Bowl in a weird sense, because like you've spent 4 weeks playing against your conference foes, like all these guys that you play against regularly throughout the season. And then the Super Bowl comes after, which is the championship game. But like, we played the 49ers last year, I think. So like the rivalry isn't quite the same, I'd say. And so it's like, at the end of the day, if we lose the Super Bowl, that is going to be a bummer. But at least the Ravens also didn't win a Super Bowl, and the Bills didn't win a Super Bowl. And, all these AFC teams also didn't win, and the Chiefs beat all of them. So it's like, it'll be a bummer, but I won't be too torn up about it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to read a couple more of these, and then we'll get back to our topics here. Zach says, which players, apart from the big four on each team, so no quarterback, running back, tight end specifically, Bosa or Jones, would you like to poach to be on your team from the other team? So any player on the 49ers other than the ones he mentioned, who would you take to be a Chief if you could make it happen?
Well, yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to take Purdy anyway, but
could you imagine again? He's like, listen, man, I love Patrick, but
I'm going to poach Purdy.
Brock Purdy.
Oh, man. Let's see. You guys have some pretty good linebackers, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. I mean,
yeah, I was thinking Trey Greenlaw. And so I'd probably take one of those guys, Fred Warner and Trey Greenlaw. Probably be who I'd poach. Okay. And that's saying a lot, because we have Bolton.
You have some good linebackers.
We've got some good linebackers ourselves for sure. But if I could take one of those guys and pair him with Bolton, I think I'd be set. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. They would be an upgrade for sure. Oh, man, I think. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, that's just talking about defense. On the offense, I mean, it's hard not want to poach like Debo or Ayuk or any of those guys.
I was gonna say, you could use a receiver too, right? Yeah. Golly. Okay, so there's a couple guys over on the Chiefs. Give me any of the 3 interior offensive linemen, because all 3 of them are very, very good. But the best player that I would love to have is L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, he is arguably the best corner in the game. He can do it all. He can play man. He can play zone. Not a lot of corners can't do both. He can do both, and he does them both at an elite level. So, for my money, give me L'Jarius Sneed. He's absolutely incredible. So that's probably who I would take.
And isn't it crazy? He didn't make All Pro or the Pro Bowl. Like, he wasn't selected for the. He's easily one of the best corners in the league, and no one pays attention. No one cares. That's
actually kind of crazy. I didn't realize that, because when they give the list, they're like, oh, this many players are on the Pro Bowl, and you're comparing. L'Jarius Sneed might be the best corner in the game. So that's okay. Yeah. All right. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, he's going to get paid this offseason for sure. It's a contract year. I'll be curious to see what the Chiefs do with him. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to keep Jones and Sneed at the same time, but maybe Veach will work his magic and yeah.
Well, yeah, and that'll get interesting. I think you got to go with the younger player, which would be Sneed, and then just draft defensive. Although Jones is, I don't know. Good luck with that. It's not a problem that I'd want to have, but if one of them leaves, I won't be too mad at it. Right. Let's talk about that defense, though. In general, I mean, Patrick Mahomes on the surface again. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, good offensive line. It's actually not that crazy to think that they've figured it out offensively this late into the season, but the defense has really been what's carried them at times. So, but one question I have is the run defense.
Okay.
This seems to be the weakness, and we're going to talk about injuries in a minute, but Nadi, I know, was a big part of that run defense, and he is now out.
Yep.
Going against the 49ers, you're going to get a heavy dose of run. Now, I would have thought I could have said the same about the Ravens, which was a big reason I was picking them to win that game. They didn't run the ball. So I don't know what happened there. I don't know if that was scheme or if that was by design or what was going on. But the 49ers, I imagine, are not going to abandon the run in the same manner with Christian McCaffrey back there.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's a legitimate weakness of this defense, or do you think that that's just something that the Chiefs defense has been willing to give up a little bit because they're so predicated on stopping the pass? How do you view the Chiefs defense?
Yeah, it's definitely concerning for sure. I'm with you. That was what scared me about the Ravens. It's like they run so much, and then they only ran it 6 times, which is kind of crazy. So I don't know what happened. I actually saw a quote today, I think it was legit, where Harbaugh said that their game plan was to run the ball, and for what? Oh, he blamed it on lack of time. He was like, we only had the ball for 9 minutes in the first half, and it's like, okay, well, that's like you could still just keep trying.
Well, you weren't running, so maybe if you had ran the ball instead of throwing incomplete passes, you would have had the better time possession. Yeah. But anyways,
but yeah, so I mean, it is concerning in that respect. But the glimpse of hope I do have is that going into the Ravens game, the Chiefs knew or had to know, hopefully, that this was a weakness for them because the Bills ran like all over them pretty much in that game, and it was concerning. And so when the Ravens game came up, I have to think that it was in their game plan, like, hey, like, we got to stop this. And really, I mean, the Ravens obviously didn't try very much, but the runs they did have, I think they only had one big run outside of Lamar Jackson. So, like, the Chiefs really did focus in and stopped the ball carriers when that did happen. So my hope is that, they look at that same game plan and say, listen, we practiced for this for like a week and we didn't have to use it. So like, here we go with Christian McCaffrey. Let's put together what we were already planning on trying against the Ravens and just see what happens. And I think that if the Chiefs can dial in, stop the run game, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Purdy. And I think he's going to wilt. I don't think he's going to be able to handle it. And that's where things will start going downhill.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that whole thing plays out. I mean, if I were the Chiefs, I think on paper saying, okay, well, you can choose to die by the Christian McCaffrey sword or the Brock Purdy sword. On the surface, you would say, okay, let's put all of our resources into stopping Christian McCaffrey. Let's go single high. Let's trust our corners on the outside to be able to stay in man. Yep. And let's see what happens. I will say this. I know that the one commenter said I'm a Brock Purdy hater, but I don't want to get off brand here as a Brock Purdy hater. But one thing that I do know is regardless of what's going on, I don't think Brock Purdy's going to wilt mentally. Now, maybe that doesn't mean he's going to play great and go be the reason that the 49ers win. Sure. But I do think that like mentally he's going to stay tough in this game and he will. It's going to be close. Like one way or another, it'll be close. But I will say like that's got to be the game plan for the Chiefs. Single high man coverage, stop Christian McCaffrey, and then figure it out from there. You can always adjust on the fly. And one thing I'll say about Steve Spagnuolo that I really like and respect is that when you watch his game plans for the last 3 weeks, they've been vastly different every single game. And that's on 1 week notice. Now you're giving him 2 weeks notice to figure this out. He will have this defense in a good position to make it very, very hard on the 49ers. And that, to me, is really the key of this game. If I can give one big key to the game, it's Shanahan's offensive mind versus Spagnuolo's defensive mind. I think that is the chess match of this game. And whoever can come out ahead in that matchup is going to be the reason that their team probably wins the Super Bowl. So I'm looking forward to that matchup big time.
Yeah, me too. That's what I'm excited to see. I think, obviously that same matchup happened 4 years ago in the Super Bowl. People didn't really talk about much back then because it was Spagnuolo's first year with the Chiefs, and so it was still developing and all these things. And over the last 4 years, his defenses have gotten progressively better, and to now where we're talking about, we're like, oh man, like the Chiefs defense is really, really good all of a sudden. And so now, whereas 4 years ago it might have been, instead of Spags, Andy Reid in that conversation, right? Like Shanahan versus Reid, the two offensive masterminds of the league going head to head. Now it's like Andy Reid's actually taking a back seat. It's going to be Shanahan and Spags, these two guys going up against each other, see who can come out on top. And so I'm excited. I think sorry, 49ers fans. I think the Chiefs defense are going to limit the 49ers offense and help them get a win.
I think that first drive is going to be crucial for the San Francisco 49ers, especially because one thing I notice about the Kansas City Chiefs when watching them is they play a lot of too high shells early on in games, especially. And they play just a straight almost cover two for a whole drive trying to figure it out. And then from there, it's like they see some game speed, they figure out what the offense wants to do, and they adjust like crazy. So that first drive, I think they're susceptible to being scored on. And that's when the 49ers have been their best. They score on the opening drive almost every single game this season. They're going to need to score in this game on that opening drive. So if the 49ers don't score on drive one, internally, I'm going to be very, very nervous about how the rest of the game is going to play out, because it takes a drive for Spagnuolo's defense to kind of settle in. And usually the 49ers are out in front of most teams' defense on drive one. So 49er fans, I think drive one is going to be extremely crucial to how this game results. The game results might play out in this one. So pay attention to that one. I think it's going to be absolutely huge. But Greg, it is interesting because when I think of the 49ers under Shanahan, yes, Shanahan is a great offensive mind, but really this team has been driven by defense. Sure. But now when you look at this team, it's an offensive-led team. That's just what it is. Outscoring their opponents in the playoffs. That's kind of been what it's about. And really, you've seen this progression towards the tail end of last year when they got Christian McCaffrey, transitioned to Purdy. The offense is kind of taken over. The defense is on a little bit of a downhill slope. Not bad by any means, but not as great as they've been. And then when you think of Kansas City, you think of offense, you think of Mahomes and Kelsey and Tyreek Hill and Andy Reid and that high-flying offense and a defense that is opportunistic, but not great. And they've both kind of just flipped roles here. You got the offensive 49ers and the defensive Chiefs. Something's got to give in this game. That's what makes this matchup so interesting. And in just 5 short years, these teams have completely flipped how they get it done. It is kind of cool to see.
Yeah, I agree. I liked your comment about the first drive. I agree. I think that first drive is going to be crucial. Seeing, like you said, these two teams have flipped and seeing the progressions they've come along. And you are right. It takes the Chiefs defense like usually one drive to figure things out, which is why, as you watch their games, they allow so few points in the second half, because by the time they get to the second half, it seems like they've got the offense figured out. And so, there is no issue. That's honestly when they played the Ravens last week. That first drive, the Ravens had the ball and it was a 3-and-out. And I was shocked because you're right.
Wait, what?
Usually it takes a drive or two for the Chiefs defense to get into gear. And when they stopped them on the first drive, I thought, man, this is gonna be a tough one for the Ravens. Like if they can't get a score on this first drive, it's gonna be a tough day for them. So yeah.
Well, and if I flip it to the other side, the Chiefs offense, I think in all 3 playoff games has scored a touchdown on their first drive as well. So that's going to be something that the 49ers defense is going to have to deal with. So 49er fans, you should feel really good if the 49ers can score a touchdown on their first drive and hold the Chiefs to 3 or less. You got to feel great about that. But if anything else plays out, if that plays out opposite and the Chiefs score and the 49ers don't, it could be a long Super Bowl that we're in for. So that first drive is going to be very, very crucial for these two teams in particular. And I don't think that's the case for every team across the league, but just the way that these two teams have played and do play traditionally throughout the season, going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, for sure.
He says, you do realize that Shanahan threw 8 passes with Jimmy G. Oh, he's questioning your Jimmy G Purdy take. Yeah.
I forgot that, but I'm sorry. Like Jimmy G just seemed like more of a threat than Brock Purdy did. So.
Tommy says you look like Ed Sheeran. He says Purdy. He said Purdy is way better than Jimmy.
I poked the bear. I poked the bear, didn't I?
You did. I'm telling you, man. I do it on a regular basis, so I'm used to it. But welcome to the Lions, Dan. Yeah, I you've definitely poked the bear. Cryptic says we let the Chiefs loan Montana and Smith. Let us have one. Good game to the victor. Going to be great. All pros on both sides. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice? We gave him Gerback also. We've given him a lot of quarterbacks, really.
It's ridiculous. It's I hate to say it, but maybe one day at the end of his career, we'll give you Mahomes. How's that?
No, right. Wait, listen, we'll take it. We'll take it. Dustin the Gale says, thanks for the work you do going through a breakup right now. And these shows help take my mind off of things. Dustin, I don't know how old you are, man. I don't know how serious it is, but thoughts are definitely with you. It can be hard for sure. My guess is you're probably a young guy. You'll bounce back. You'll be fine. So don't worry about it, man. I appreciate you tuning in, though. Elite Archer says, Greg, if you're so confident, put your fandom where your mouth is. Agree to wear a Purdy jersey when the Niners win. Wow.
All right. Well, if you send me a Purdy jersy, I will wear it. How's that sound?
Hey, there you go. He's just not going to pay with his hard-earned money.
I'm not going to pay for a Purdy jersey. It's not going to be worth anything in a couple of years.
Oh, wow. Hey, listen, Greg's not here to play. I like this. Okay, all right. He's not messing with the chat. I like it. Brother Bob says, Greg, you think the AFC Championship game was bigger than the Super Bowl? Pre-excuses. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to play off this. I have a question for you off of this. This is good. Do you think, because for I picked the Chiefs to beat Buffalo. I picked the Chiefs to beat Miami. Yeah. I did not pick them to beat the Ravens. I thought the Ravens were the most complete team in the NFL. The Chiefs got it done. They got it done kind of handily on the road. But be real. Who do you think is the tougher team to beat? Do you think it's the Ravens, or do you think it's the 49ers?
Tougher team to beat, man. I really do have to lean Ravens, man. And that honestly, I know it's gonna sound disrespectful. And like I'm just poking.
I don't think it's disrespectful. I think the Ravens were a very good team. So,
I do think the 49ers are a good team. I'll be honest. For most of the season, I thought the 49ers were the best team in the league. I really did. They were my pick to go to the Super Bowl as the season unfolded. I was not shocked at all. I thought so. Really, from my perspective, I thought the NFC had the top two or three teams. That kind of faded as the season went on. But originally, I thought they had the top couple teams, and the AFC had a lot of really good teams. The NFC had the great teams. And so I wasn't shocked at all the 49ers went to the Super Bowl. But then by the end of the season, it kind of become clear, actually, maybe the AFC actually has all the great teams, and the NFC has just a couple really good teams. And that's kind of where I see it now. And so it's I'm not trying to disrespect the Niners at all, but I do think the Ravens in that respect are the tougher team for the Chiefs to play.
That's fair. I think that's fair. I mean, I think hindsight could be 2020, right? Like now that you've beaten the Ravens and kind of did it in dominant fashion, it would be easy to say, all right, well, the 49ers are going to be tougher because maybe the game's closer, right? But you've kind of seen how that game plays out. So
yeah. Like I said, I didn't think the Chiefs would beat the Ravens, and when we beat Buffalo, I picked the Chiefs to win. I wasn't confident that they were going to win, but I thought they'd pull it off. But I actually at the time told the writers, I said, it doesn't matter who wins this game. Neither team's going to beat the Ravens next week. Like, that's just the reality of it. Because that's how certain I was the Ravens were just that good. And so the fact that the Chiefs won this, I do feel better against the 49ers than I did against them.
Yeah. Samir says not taking Debo is wild, but then he followed up and said, never mind, because you did kind of circle back and say, well, offensively, I would take a receiver. So Jack says CMC is going to have a field day on the Chiefs. Man, I hope so. I really hope you're right. And I think that it's possible. I really do.
Yeah.
Keith says, "Give me Snead with Ward. We already poached one." Yeah, we did. We did take Charvarius Ward from them, and that's been a great addition. That right there, as you remember, that Jet Wasp play was a big reason for that. First of all, was Richard Sherman. I know that he technically wasn't a part of it, but he was a shell of himself in that Super Bowl, I believe, to where Ward, being our number one corner now, is clearly a number one corner. He's very good. You know, he's very good, and he's in his prime. So that's a big, big thing for the San Francisco 49ers and their defense on the back half, at least, heading into this game.
Yeah, for sure. I'm be honest, I was bummed when we lost Ward to you guys. I liked him, and I really thought it'd be more of a dent. I'm glad he's worked out for you guys because I really thought it'd be more of a dent to the Chiefs. And then it's really been a testament to Veach's drafting that we've gotten these two cornerbacks that we've got. Oh, well, we've got a lot of good corners, but McDuffie and Snead, man, have just haven't skipped a beat, you know. So
well, that was it. I mean, Snead was, a couple years in and a young player and showed some things, but wasn't, and they obviously looked at it and said, well, I mean, Ward's expendable because we have Snead in the waiting, and McDuffie obviously drafted him, I believe, that same year that they let Ward walk, and it's worked out great for both teams. It's one of those things that you look at and say, the Chiefs are fine, but the 49ers absolutely needed somebody like Charvarius Ward, and so it's worked out really good for both teams. Brother Bob says, Greg, serious question, scale of 1 to 10. What is your confidence level? I imagine 10 being the most confident.
Sure. My confidence level is an 8 right now. Pushing that 9.
About where I'm at. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fair. That's pretty much where I'm at. It's like it's impossible to be at a 10 when you're going against Mahomes, but I feel good about that 8. I feel good. Samir says hat bet idea. We've had a couple of these on the show, Greg, this year. Only I think 2. I think I made one with a Dallas Cowboy fan and then the Eagles fan who never paid up, so he'll never be back. But that being said, he says hat bet over under X amount of air yards for Purdy. That's too specific. I think you just have to go whichever team wins or loses if you're going to do one. Although I have no desire to make any hat bets because, one, I don't know how the 49ers have gone 2-0 when I've bet on them. It's normally not good. I jinx them when I bet on them. I'm not trying to run that back and really tempt fate with the Super Bowl on the line. And then the last thing that I want to do if the 49ers were to lose the Super Bowl is to wear a Chiefs hat this offseason. I'm good. So I'm not going to take the bet, but I think it is a good idea. I like the Purdy bet, but I can't do it, man. I can't stomach it. So I'm not willing to do it either. Jack says every guest has said their defense can stop the 49. Okay. I mean, I think that not every defense is the Ravens and the Chiefs, which are the 2 best defenses in the league. So, but you're right. I mean, I think a lot of that, Jax, though, to be fair, is people truly not believing in Brock or thinking that he is even a good quarterback. And early on in the season, I think there was a lot of that. I think as the seasons progress, people have seen him more and kind of respect him a little bit more. But I think a lot of teams or content creators have been proven wrong in that sense. We'll see how this one goes.
Yeah. I would say on that too is, nothing against the 49ers, but, the 2 defenses they did play actually, like, at least in the first half, like, kept the offense at bay. So, I mean, it's not like people have just been talking trash and then not be able to back it up. Both defenses did, like, play fairly well from what I can tell. Up until the end when the 49ers did come back. And that's a good thing for a team to be able to do. But, those 2 defenses actually did kind of stop the 49ers offense to some extent. So
I wanted to throw this out too, and somehow I spaced it when we were talking the defense, but Chiefs defense has given up 1 30-point output from an offense in the last 36 games they've played. And I think that one game was the Super Bowl last year. Am I not? That's a crazy statistic. That's and none this season, by the way. No, the most points they've given up in a game is 27 to Green Bay. Outside of that, no other team has scored more than 25 against this defense. That's absolutely insanity.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
In an offensive led league, that one. I had to double. I went and double when I heard the stat. I went and double checked it myself. I'm like, there's no way that this is true. So
yeah. Well, I was caught off guard because I thought you were going to say this season. I was like, they haven't allowed a 30-point game this season. So, but yeah, the last 30 plus games, absolutely, yeah, I believe it. Yeah, this season it's just ridiculous. I even forgot what the Packers won because even before this we went on, I was looking. I was like, man, I don't think they've allowed more than 24. But you're right, they did get us with the 27 on the Packers, but still, like that's the most they've given up in a game this season. It's
yeah,
crazy.
It is crazy. That's a crazy number. Dazza says, how are the Niners going to stop Chris Jones with our weak interior O line? Same way they deal with Aaron Donald, and that's actually a good parlay. I'm going to go to Keith's comment, and then we're going to talk about the injuries and why Chris Jones is kind of a one-man band, more so than he's ever had to be this year because of some of those injuries. And I think that helps the 49ers kind of work around Chris Jones because there's some guys that you don't have to worry about as much. Keith says, how big is the Amenahu injury? Well, let's just talk about it. Injuries are big. I mean, first of all, let's talk about the Chiefs and some of their injuries and the injuries they had going into the Ravens game and what they left with. So going into that game, all-pro guard Joe Thuney did not play. Sounds like he's likely going to be out for the Super Bowl, although I would say Allegretti filled in very well. You've got Derek Nottie, who went on IR before that game, did not play. Amenahu left that game with an ACL. And then Willie Gay, who is supposed to be the spy linebacker on this Chiefs, going against Josh Allen. He got injured the week before, didn't play the second half, and then had to go against Lamar without him. I mean, that defense still put up an amazing performance. So let's just go injury by injury and some of the players that might replace them. So Thuney, let's assume he's not going to play.
Yeah.
Allegretti, I mean, a lot of people would say there wasn't really a drop-off, which is crazy to say because Thuney's an all-pro. How good is Allegretti? I know he's been on this team for a while. He's a big, strong, physical human being. What did you think of him in this last game, and how confident are you in his play in this Super Bowl if he has to go?
Yeah, I feel really good about it. I mean, honestly, I know this sounds terrible, but it's like the less the lineman's name gets mentioned, the better, right? Like, that usually means they're not giving up penalties or sacks or anything. And so the fact that we didn't hear a whole lot about him made me feel good. And, you are right. He's been on this team for a long time. And I think that means that Andy Reid trusts him. Andy Reid's an O-line guy going way back. He loves his own linemen. And, like, he's not going to have just anybody as backups. He wants to make sure he has guys who can fill in. And so, I think it showed there that Allegretti was able to fill in and team didn't really skip a beat, and so I feel good about him.
Okay. Let's talk about Nottie and his injury. Again, very, very good run defender. I think losing him was huge. For a Chiefs team that already has had some issues in the run that was with him on the field, who's filled in for him, and what does the interior of that defensive line look like without him?
Man, this is the one position that I struggle to remember off the top of my head. So forgive me on this, but golly, I'm trying to remember who it was. I mean,
first of all, that's not good, right? Yeah, because it shows how big of a drop off it is. But you guys signed somebody too, and I don't know. I don't remember who started at that position last week. I honestly can't remember. I can't remember who started.
I can't either. I can't remember who started either. So yeah, I mean, that obviously shows the hole that is causing some issues, right? Is like whoever they've got going, if even Chiefs fans can't remember who it is, that's going to be a big issue. And we've seen that, whereas their run game has struggled since Nottie went out, so it's like,
all right, Tershawn Wharton, it looks like.
Okay, there it is.
So there, I couldn't tell you. I've never heard of them.
Yep. Yeah. Turk. I honestly forgot he was on the team still. That shows you something, Yeah.
Free agent pickup is what it looks like. So there you go. It's the depth there is awful. Okay. But again, the Ravens didn't put them on the spot, didn't run the ball a lot, so not really sure there. Amenahu is going to miss this game with an ACL. Gutted for him on a personal level, by the way. We all love him here. Great 49er over the last year or so since they made the trade for him. Definitely didn't want to lose him. He was suspended for 6 games, but still was very good statistically. Now, I know that you have Karlaftis on one end, and I mean, technically, he wasn't a starter for you. He was more of a depth pass rusher piece. Now I know that yeah, go ahead.
He was so good. I mean, it was just, it's a shame to call him depth because it's like he was so good.
Well, he was. Now I know that what is it? Mike Dana's a starter there. I know that you have Uzamoa Anabike, who's been there as well. I know that he's a rotational piece. Rookie, obviously not ideal, but I imagine that he had to play some snaps earlier in this year. How do they deal with the Amenahu loss? Because that is a big one.
Yeah, I think that rookie. I can never get his name right. So I'm not even gonna try.
Anadike, I think.
Anadike, yeah. I actually think he's gonna surprisingly be the answer. I think Spags was asked about it this week, and he actually sounded confident that Anadike could step in. Now, that doesn't instill a lot of confidence on the surface because you can't even say he's been a rotational player. He played like 1 or 2 games at the beginning of the season, and then he's really not played at all since then. Yeah. And so it's like that for Chiefs fans, that makes us a little bit nervous because it's like, well, you guys obviously didn't think he was good enough to even give him like backup, snaps. And so, but if Spags thinks he's ready to go, I mean, you can't really sign somebody to fill that spot. You kind of got to run with what you have. So we'll see. He was one of our.
Here's an outside one, and I mean, call me crazy, and they're not going to do it. It's too late now. But why not bring back Frank Clark?
That's what I said. Honestly,
why not? Right?
No, yeah. To me, that would have been the answer. It's like bring back Frank Clark. I know a lot of people said he's washed and that he didn't play great this season. I think he started on the Broncos and went to the Seahawks and he didn't really make any noise. And it's like, I guess, but for one game, why not? Just.
He can't be worse than your 5th best pass rusher, right? Like, I mean, at the very least, he's got experience with this team. Maybe just having him in the locker room. Maybe he's one of those guys that brings him. I don't know. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Yeah. But one thing I will say is Willie Gay, who did not play for the second half in the Buffalo game, did not play last week because of the stinger in his neck. He was set to play versus the Ravens. Game day, neck flared up, was unable to play. It sounds like he is good to go. He practiced all last week. He's going to practice this week. I think that's a huge get back. So of all the injuries that they had last week, they are getting a huge defensive piece back for this game. Overall, though, are you concerned that the injuries might be the difference in this game? Or is it like, hey, this is kind of what it's been for a few weeks. If we can win those games, we can win this game. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I actually I'm not too concerned about it. The Amenahu loss is a big one, but as you mentioned, he also didn't play the first 6 games of the season, and the Chiefs still didn't allow more than 27 points in the game. So it's like, and that was playing the Detroit Lions, Jacksonville Jaguars. Like we played some decent offenses in that early part of the season, and that's why, as much as it stings, I think we'll be okay on that front. The run defense, it is scary, but I think they'll find a way to overcome it. Having Gay back will be good. I'm not, even if he's out though, I'm still not concerned. Our linebacking core has been really good. We got Leo Chanel and Drew Tranquil also filling in there. Those guys, along with Bolton, they're going to step up and they're going to play really well, whether Gay's out or not. And so, I feel good about it. Now if I wake up tomorrow and they say Chris Jones towards ACL, I might start sweating a little bit, But as of right now, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about them, even with their injuries.
Okay. All right. Totally fair. Brother Bob says, Greg, will you come back after the Chiefs lose the Super Bowl?
You know what? I will come back. Yes, I will come
I
back.
like it. Okay, all right. Hey, but this goes both ways. I will have him back. The door is always open for any of my guests, except for the Eagles fan who wouldn't wear the hat after losing a bet. But anybody else, the door is open for. Careful what you wish for, Brother Bob. Now we have some extra incentive. We have some skin in the game that we didn't have before. So remember that. Twisted Clown says, who are the Chiefs concerned about stopping? All right, yeah, as a Chiefs fan, who are you worried about on the 49ers? That's a good question.
I'm definitely concerned about stopping Christian McCaffrey. I think he's kind of the big one.
Say so.
I do know. I gotta give credit. Deebo Samuel is like one of the best receivers out there. And I think I saw a stat where like every game he's played, you guys have won or something like that, which is it's one of those funny stats. It's like go either way, I guess. But it does just show how valuable he is to your guys' team. So I think our corners will be able to keep him on lock. I think they'll handle him more than our run defense will handle CMC. So, if I had to pick between the two, I'd probably go with Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best running back going right now. So I think that's a good pick. And the run defense is a bit leaky.
Hang on. Pacheco.
Oh, no, come on. Don't do this. Don't you do this. Listen, I had the hat bet that I made with the Cowboys fan. This all started, the whole hat bet thing started because he said that I can't even remember their running back off the top of my head. I'm having a brain fart. Said that their running back was better than Christian McCaffrey. That's where the whole thing started. So there we go.
Yeah, well, that's definitely not true.
So anyways, I thought that was pretty funny. I'm like, oh, here we go. This is gonna lead to a bet. I could feel it. I could definitely feel it. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's just get down to brass tacks here. Greg, you've given me an hour of your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But we are both very confident in this outcome. Yeah. Give me your final score prediction for this Super Bowl.
I am going to go Chiefs over Niners 24-14.
Whoa, 10 oh my gosh. Okay. Walk me through that a little bit. That's a bigger spread than I expected.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was thinking about this. It's just the way the Chiefs defense has been playing. We've talked about for the past hour. They allowed more than 24 points one time the entire season. So I'm quite confident that they're not going to give up that many to begin with. And just based how they handled the Ravens offense, which was also very explosive. If I recall earlier this season, the Ravens kind of mopped the floor with you guys, and all that.
Christmas night, we didn't forget.
Yeah. That was a heartbreak for both of our teams, honestly. That day was tough. But the fact that the Chiefs were able to stop and hold the Ravens to just 10 points gives me confidence that they're going to hold. I'll give you guys 14 points. I'll give you 2 touchdowns. But I don't think a lot more than that. And then on the offensive side, I think the stat is as long as the Chiefs score 22 points in a game, they've won this season. Like every time they score 22, they win. And I'm confident. You guys' defense is good. I don't think it's as good as ours, but it is good. It's fairly good. But I do think the Chiefs' offense can put up at least that 22, and so I'm going to go with 24 to get there. I don't think it'll be a blowout per se. 10 points is a lot. I get that, especially between these two teams. But I don't anticipate what the Buccaneers did to the Chiefs a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl, like 30-9 or whatever. So I think 10 points is reasonable based on what I know about the Chiefs' defense and offense. And so I'm at 24-14.
Well, and let's say you score a touchdown with 2 minutes left to kind of put the game away. 10 points sounds like a lot, but it was a 3-point game. So, all right, I can respect it. I agree with a lot of what you said. I don't believe that the 49ers are going to score more than 24 either. That's a cool stat about the Chiefs, 22. but I don't think they're going to score 22. So I feel good about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 49ers 24, Chiefs 20.
Okay.
Very, very close game, hard fought game. But ultimately, I think that the 49ers get it done. I do. I mean, again, I respect your opinion, but I think that Purdy's way better than Jimmy Garoppolo. I never believed in Jimmy Garoppolo. I won't say never. I definitely believed, but that Seattle game that season, the first Seattle game, I lost all hope in Jimmy, and I couldn't, even after the Saints magical game and some of those games against the Cardinals in 2019, I was like, I don't believe in this guy. And then watching him in the playoffs, I lost even more belief. Brock Purdy, I do believe in. I think he's mentally all there. I love what he has. He can bring the element of moving a little bit with his feet. Sure. Although I will say Brock has not played the best during the playoffs. However, he has played very good when they needed it most. So I feel great about that. And listen, Patrick Mahomes is not going to be easy to beat. This Chiefs team, I do think the Ravens were the better team. Mm-hmm. And I think would worry me a little bit more than the Chiefs. That being said, it's Patrick frickin' Mahomes. So here's my concern, Greg. I'll give you my actual concern about this game, which is the 49ers have done everything they needed to win this game.
Yeah.
But somehow there's a minute-ish left on the clock. The Chiefs have the ball, and all they need is a touchdown, and they win the game. They put it away. Yeah. That scenario terrifies me. It scares me to death. So I hope that that's not the scenario. I would rather, this is how much I hate that scenario. I would rather be down and Purdy to have the ball in his hands. I feel more confident in that against the number 2 scoring defense in the league than I do stopping Mahomes with our defense at this moment. I want no part of that. So if the 49ers are down and they need a touchdown drive from Purdy, give me that over Mahomes having the ball in his hands and them needing a touchdown drive. I don't like that scenario. So I'm going to say 24 29ers, but my ultimate nightmare is Mahomes having the ball in his hands with a minute or so left. It terrifies me.
Sure. Well, I'll add my ultimate nightmare then, since that's what you put out there.
All right.
Mine really is that it's kind of twofold there, which is I do fear that the Chiefs defense won't be able to stop Christian McCaffrey. It would not surprise me at all. And if that's the case, you guys are going to milk the clock and keep Mahomes on the sidelines. And that's been kind of the only consistently proven way to beat the Chiefs is to keep Mahomes off the field. And then on the flip side of that is like the perfect storm would be kind of what we talked about at the beginning is regressing on the offense. Is if suddenly every receiver just has bricks for hands, and just starts dropping passes, fumbles, interceptions, whatever it may be. That's my ultimate nightmare that I could realistically see it happening. Unfortunately, it's like, I don't think it's going to, but it also wouldn't totally surprise me if something like that happened. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great game though. I'm really excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah, me as well. One last one on the way out. Brother Bob says Niners 34, Chiefs 27. Greg, bet that so you win something. He's saying go to Vegas and bet it. If the 49ers put up 30, I feel very, very, very good about their chances. Again, the Chiefs defense has not given up 30 all season. They haven't given up 28 all season. They gave up 27 once and then haven't given up more than, I think, 24 the rest of the season. So if the 49ers can score 30, I think that we're going to come home with number 6. So I'd feel great about it. 30 points would be fantastic. Greg, thank you so much for joining me. Chat, appreciate you. I'll be back tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern with Ryan, kicking off Tuesday as far as Super Bowl week goes. Appreciate y'all. Peace.
See ya.